This is the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijoma, and I thank you for joining me for another episode. This week, my guest is Paula Tamara Haas, and she runs the Etsy shop Cln Drty. And we have so much to talk about because Paula has a very unique take on running a business. And so stick around.
Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijoma Elazu.
Hi, Paula. Thank you so much for being my guest on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. And in front of everyone, I want to say thank you again for being so flexible. I had to cancel on her at the last minute, but you were really flexible, and I really appreciate you just bending with the changing of everything.
Well, to be fair, I had to reschedule on you as well. And
I forgot that.
And like I said, I think your entire audience can agree that you're doing such an amazing service for everybody, and we learn so much from you that it's we have to make accommodations for each other, right? We're a community.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. So Before we start, can you just give us a background about who Paula is?
So my name is Paula. In business, I go by Paula Tamara Haas. I don't know. It's just always kind of stuck. That is my name. And I live on the South Shore of Boston, Massachusetts, in a little town right kind of not too far away from the ocean. And I have a wonderful husband, and I have two little girls. I have a 2.5-year-old named Juniper, and I have a almost 4-month-old named Rowan.
Oh, and they're adorable. If you want to check them out, go to Paula's Instagram account. I'm going to link to that, but we're going to get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. So Paula, one thing I like that stood out is that Cln Drty, which is your Etsy shop, is actually your 4th Etsy shop. So
4th, yes.
Yeah, you're not new to Etsy per se. So Let's just jump right into it. What were the other 3 Etsy shops you had, and what went wrong with those?
I don't think no, nothing went wrong. So
Okay,
I think that's so important, like in business, to not say like, something went wrong. Like they just, we grew out of them, and they were learning experiences, and they were hobbies. So the first one, so if it's 2016 now, I think I opened the first one in 2008. And I was at the time in grad school. So I have my master's in communications management, focusing in marketing. And I was in grad school at the time, and I needed a side hustle, right? I mean, I think that's the reason most of us start out.
Yeah.
And I've always been an artist. So I actually started my undergrad in fine arts, and I decided a semester in that I was never going to make any money being an artist. So I went on to communications, but I've always been an artist, and I've always painted. And I somehow became aware of Etsy, and I started looking around, and I said, okay, I can sell something on this platform. And I had this self-limiting belief that I can never sell my art. So I had to sell something that people wanted to buy. So I started making jewelry, and I really didn't have any background in jewelry making. I would just go to like the local craft store and buy some pieces, or I would deconstruct some vintage pieces, and I would put them together, and I would photograph them, and I would put them up. And it was mostly like people that I knew that were buying them. And I did some craft shows, but I never really tracked my finances, so I'm not sure if I ever really made a profit on it. I honestly, like, I think of business kind of as like, how like those house flipping shows are really popular right now. I think of business as like flipping product, right?
Yeah.
So I was buying like raw product, and I was creating something out of it, and I was flipping it. But I started making jewelry, and then I think what happened was, while I had that shop open, I had mentioned to you in previous conversation that my parents are from Poland. So a friend of my parents contacted me and wanted to see if I could. He was importing like amber jewelry from Poland, and he wanted to see if I could sell it on Etsy, which I don't even know if that's like kosher. Like, I don't even know if that's appropriate on Etsy at this point, because I don't think it was handmade.
Right.
I don't even know the source of it. Right. Yeah. So this was probably in 2008. So I'm not sure what the guidelines were back then. And I set up a shop for that jewelry, and I don't think I sold anything. I think so. But the importance of that was I was selling a lot of my handmade jewelry, and I honestly think this jewelry that was imported was much prettier, but there was no story behind it, right?
Yeah.
There was no there was no who was making it. There was no where it was coming from. It was just amber jewelry. So even though my handmade jewelry, I don't think it was anything really exceptional. I mean, I think it was okay, but I don't think it stood out more than anything that's available right now, like in the handmade marketplace. People were buying it because there was a story behind it. Like they knew me, right?
Right.
And I think like the story was that I finished grad school. I remember we moved out of the house we were living in. I was like, okay, I'm done with this. And I sold somebody like the lot of jewelry and all the supplies for like $100. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
wow.
that's done. And then so those were two shops. And then the third shop, this is so important to say. This is so important to say. So in 2011, I believe, I had a really severe depressive episode and I had to leave my job. I was working full time in marketing and I had to leave my job. I went on disability. I like could not function at all. And I started painting again.
Mm.
And I had no money and people were like asking to buy my paintings. My house was filling up with paintings. And I started an Etsy shop and I started selling the paintings and I was pretty successful with it. I at that point like started keeping a balance sheet and I was more intentional as branding myself as an artist. And over about 6 months, I got better, thank God, with an amazing medical team. And I've been really good since. But it was an outlet and it was a way to connect with people and it was a way to create and it was like a way to bring joy into people's lives.
Right.
So the Etsy shop was Paula Tamara Haas at that time. And I started doing prints and I started doing like phone cases and it worked out really well. And then I continued doing it. And then I started working, and I know you want to touch upon this. I started working for Lululemon, which is a high-end athletic company, athletic apparel company. And then I went from part-time with them to full-time to a managerial position, and the art kind of fell to the wayside. And to this day, and I had to eventually close the shop down because I just didn't have time, and I didn't have time to paint too much. And to this day, people are like, "Can I buy your art still?" And I had like gallery shows. It was really great. And then I think I just had like a bit of an artist block, and that's fine. And I kind of went into like my full-time role at Lululemon, and then I became pregnant with Rowan, and I had some medical issues towards like the end of my pregnancy in retail management and retail in general. You just have to be on your feet the whole time. And I had really bad issues with my lower back. So I had to leave work a little bit early. And I had just been making like natural sunscreen for a few years at that time. Because when Juniper was a little baby, I had sprayed like that sunscreen all over myself, like the kind you would get like, at any drugstore. I sprayed all over myself out in the sun. And I picked her up and she was teething and she latched her like mouth onto my shoulder. And I was like, oh my gosh, like she's eating all of those chemicals and all of the spray that just like went onto me. So I was like, I've always kind of been into like more natural eating and more natural products, but I was, oh my gosh. And the thing about sunscreens are that even if you buy like what you think is a natural brand, they still, if you look at the ingredients, you're like, I don't know what these things are. Like, I don't know, I can't pronounce half of these things, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like delusional and have like when I get my mind on something, I focus on it and I have to finish. So I started looking for like natural sunscreen recipes, and I learned that like zinc oxide, non-nano zinc oxide, is a really safe natural ingredient that you can incorporate into like a homemade sunscreen. So if any of the listeners remember, like in the 80s, you'd have like the white stripe on your nose in the sun, and that's just zinc oxide. So I was like, okay, I need like a bag, like a 2-pound bag of zinc oxide, and I was buying it all in bulk. I'm like, I need 2 pounds of shea butter and 2 pounds of coconut oil. And I made it, and I posted on Facebook, and I'm like, hey, I now have 20 jars of like sunscreen, and does anyone want to buy it? And I think I sold all of the jars within like 2 days to my
Wow.
friend. Yeah.
Was it branded at the time, or you just
No,
packaged them and
no.
then?
I packaged it, and my husband was like, you need a disclaimer on it. Like, someone's going to break out in a rash and we're going to sue you and we're going to lose our house. So I'm like
Oh.
writing a disclaimer like in Sharpie market. I'm like, use at your own risk. um, so I was still working full time at that point. And then Junie got a little bit older, and then I got pregnant with Roan when Juniper was about a year and a half.
Mm.
And like I said, I had to eventually pare down my hours at Lululemon, and then I had to eventually leave a few months prior to the time that she was born.
Yeah.
And then that's when Clean & Dirty came about. I get bored really easily, and summer was coming up, so it was May of 2016 this year, and people were like, "Are you going to make that sunscreen again?" And I was like, "I got nothing better to do." So so in one night, I sat down on my couch and I photographed a bunch of like sunscreen containers, and they don't look at all how they do now on the site. And I was like, I can just sell them through Etsy because people out of state wanted to buy them. So I'm like, I know Etsy, I know how it works. I can just make a site and put these up for sale, and my friends can buy them. And people started buying all the sunscreens, and they wanted a lower SPF and they wanted a higher SPF. And they were like, hey, will you make me a lotion? Will you make me a deodorant? Will you make me, a face oil? And I was like, okay. And within probably about 2 months, I had 25 products. Within 6 months, I have over 50 products. And it's just been awesome. It's been so much fun. And that was a really long-winded answer.
Oh, no, not at all. I'm like taking it all in and making notes. So the product line that you carry now have been inspired by requests that you got.
Yeah.
Okay, so that took the guesswork out of your product for you, in that people were actually asking you for things. So you didn't have to guess at what your market wanted. Your market was telling you.
Precisely. Yeah. I think one of the things that I think is most important as any sort of business owner, and what I really want to stress is anybody who has an Etsy shop, you are a business owner. Like that's so powerful, right? Like you own your own business, and you create your own business, and you create your own brand. Like how cool is that? And it has to be, in order for it to be successful, it does have to be intentional. And you have to like look at what your customers want. And it's so simple. You say, what do you want? You ask your friends, you ask your family, you ask your target market. Like you figure out like, who do I want to buy my product?
Yes.
Right? And you contact that person and you say, hey, what do you want? And I'm to the point now that I'm like telling people, I'm like, people are requesting so many things that I'm like, okay, I'll put it on the 2-year plan. I'll put it on the 5-year plan. I'm like, let me just get through Christmas.
Well, at least you can see that down the road there's a plan for you. And one of the things I like is that you also have a muse for your shop, and this is someone that you actually create all your products for. Can we talk about who your muse is and how that works?
Yeah. So I was saying that I think it's super important to be intentional with your brand, right?
Yes.
So any store that you go into, any business that you interact with, like any business out there, right? You go in there and there's a certain feeling to it, right? So like if you go into a department store, like a high-end department store versus a low-end department store, the low-end department store, they have a certain target market. They know even like the annual income of the person the average person that's shopping for them, as does the high-end department store. So when you create something, I think it's just so important to say, this is exactly who I'm creating for. So who I'm creating for is, it's a woman in her early 30s. She is upper middle class. She has, 1 or 2 children. Has a successful job. She practices yoga. She is really into fitness. She's really into natural products. She eats really well. She likes having her smoothie. She likes doing like juice cleanses. And she's willing to pay more money for a really high quality, amazing natural product. So everything that I create is for that person.
Yeah.
And my audience, of course, it falls like around that.
Right.
But I think that's when you have an intention of like a certain person that you're creating for, it's really easy to stay in line. Like, so one of my friends today, he sent me a message. I have such an amazing like audience and friends, and they're always giving me ideas. And he sent me like a video of like DIY like paw salve for dogs.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I'm like, but it doesn't fit in with what I'm doing right now. Right.
Right.
Like I don't have a pet line. And I think it's easy as a seller to say yes to everything.
Right.
And say like, yeah, I'll make that. Yeah, I'll make that. Yeah, I'll make that.
Yes.
And then you go to somebody's shop and you're like, what are they selling?
Yeah.
They have necklaces and bags and socks and a lotion and a planner, and you're like, I don't know what they're selling, but I think it's so important to go into a store and say, oh, I know what I can buy here. Or when it's time to buy, you know what store to go to, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you're addressing the age-old question, the age-old question of, is it okay to mix and mingle product lines? Do you need to focus on a niche, or because it's Etsy, can you just put everything under one roof and be found for multiple things and not really known for one thing? And what I'm hearing you say is that you need to be known for something. People need to seek you out if they're looking for a particular product and know that you're going to carry it, and not the other way around where they stumble into your store and they could find anything from pet jewelry to cosmetics.
Right. Unless like we have, unless that's what you're going for, right? I think the key is to have an intention.
Okay.
So there's a store, I think like they rebranded Hallmark stores by us now, and they call them paper stores, and they have everything in there. They've got cards and gifts and like pet jewelry and shoes and jackets, but like it's a gift store, right?
Right.
So like you can have everything in your Etsy store, but it's a gift store. Like that's the intention.
Okay.
Do you get what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
So first you need to have and decide what the purpose of your store is. And then that will determine the products that you carry. And even though it's possible to carry maybe products that aren't necessarily all related, if your shop has a particular purpose and function, then it can work.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That does make sense. See, this is why it's great to talk to people who have an education in marketing, because then, we learn how to put it all together. Now, is it possible that your muse could have a pet dog?
She could. And I was like, I feel like she's going to ask that question. She could. Yeah. Yeah. And maybe that's down the line, right? But what I wouldn't do would be just create one pet salve, right?
Right.
I would intentionally create like a pet salve, a dog wash, like something to like clean their noses, maybe like a spray for them. I would release that all together.
Okay. So again, create a line of products so that they complement each other. And then, and I'm thinking that by doing that also, you increase the chances that you'll make more if you have complementary items that go together. So if somebody intended to buy one product, a complementary item would be a natural upsell, which you wouldn't even have to upsell per se, because that person would know, oh, well, if I'm buying this product, this goes with it, so I should get this as well.
Precisely. You got it.
Where would you advise someone to go to learn about how to put complementary products together? Like you've done that well with your skincare line, um, in that you have lotions, but then also deodorants, because hey, we all know, I shouldn't say everyone uses deodorant. I don't know. I assume. But deodorant, if you're using deodorant, then you're likely to also want to use a moisturizer on your skin. If you're
Mm.
using a moisturizer on your skin, then you probably, are also concerned about how to take care of your face. That opens up a whole other, a whole different, group of products, because depending on who you are, facial care can mean makeup or things to take makeup off, or it could mean things to take care of your face just to keep it healthy. So, how would you advise someone who maybe isn't in the same line of business that you're in as far as skincare to figure out what products complement each other that make sense to carry in their shop?
I don't know. My gosh.
Paula, I thought you had the
I
answer.
know. Oh gosh, I failed at Jeopardy. Um, I I don't know. I think you can kind of ask yourself the question of like, if I were to go into a store, would these things be grouped together?
Mm,
But I don't know the answer. I think it's just
okay.
kind of it's been a little more intuitive for me. Oh, I wish
Yeah.
I had a better answer.
Oh no, that's okay. And hey, I didn't even know I was going to ask that question, but I see how
It's a
well
really
grouped
great
your
question.
products are. And
It's
so I
yeah.
thought, you've obviously put thought into what you're going to carry, and so it just made sense. But yeah, I think either way, that's something that sellers should be thinking about, is what goes with what I'm already selling.
Yeah, I mean, it's marketing, so it's something that I learned in my education, and I'm sure there's like resources that won't cost you as much as I paid to learn it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Now, how how was the transition for you, being, even though it wasn't like an immediate planned transition, but now being your own boss and running your own business, and being in charge of everything that happens, how is that different for you now, compared to when you were an employee and working for a corporation that wasn't yours?
It's I think it's more challenging
Mm.
because when you're working for an employer, you either have a salary or you have an hourly wage, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you can say, like, today I made $150. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is my worth through the day.
Mm-hmm.
And they support you with education, right? So
Yes.
you can ask your boss and say, I'd like to go to this seminar and learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
Or, you have people that you work with and they can give you feedback, right?
Yeah.
So you can say, hi, how did I do today?
Mm-hmm.
How was I in that meeting, or how was I with that customer, or where do you think I could grow in my position? And you get
Mm-hmm.
promotions, right?
Yeah.
And you get raises.
Yes.
And then you have, you go from 9 to 5, or you have a shift that you work. And I think everybody that's listening can agree that you get none of that when you're when you're running your own small business, when it's just you, or it's just you and somebody else. You really have to create, I think you have to create boundaries, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
have to create a time that you say, like, I finish working every night
Mm-hmm.
by 5 p.m. by dinner time, so I
Mm-hmm.
can spend dinner with my family.
Okay.
Or I finish working by 9 p.m. so I can get to sleep at a certain time.
Mm.
And I do think it's important to keep track of your finances of your store. So I keep a
Yeah.
balance sheet of what I sell and supplies and what goes in and what comes out, so that you can have an idea of whether your business is growing and whether it's worth continuing, or
Yeah.
whether it's worth making changes to either the way that you purchase your supplies or your pricing, or any of those variables. Like, am I being profitable? Is this worth my
Mm-hmm.
time?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to going back to like the muse and your guests and talking to people, I think it's important to reach out to your customers and the people that you interact with and say, hey, how is this working for you?
Yeah.
How do you perceive my brand? Because
Okay.
it's so easy to assume.
Okay. So do you follow up with your customers on Etsy for feedback?
I do.
Oh,
And
okay.
um, I think my greatest blessing is, I would say 90% of my customers are people that I know.
Hmm.
Isn't that surprising?
Yeah.
90% of my customers are people that I have met or interacted with previously at some point in my life. Whether
Really?
I've sold them anything from I've sold them my art and I've met them through through a craft fair that I was at before and I sold them my art, or it's someone that I went to high school with, or someone that I worked at a previous job with.
Hmm.
Um, I I don't think that's a weakness. I think that's such a strength in the point that so many people believe in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
and they tell their friends about it. And
Yeah.
they're so excited about it. And they're my advocates.
Yes, and that was what I was going to say is it's
Uh-huh.
great when you're advocates, one, it starts off with people you know,
Mhm.
because you've heard a lot of other Etsy sellers say, they start off making something and they're giving it to friends and family till eventually friends and family are like, enough already,
Yeah.
give it to someone else or sell it. But the
Yeah, but
fact that
sell it.
your friends and family are your advocates, they're your salespeople,
Oh,
they believe in your product and are spreading the word. I want to ask, did you do anything to make that happen? Or do you think it's more so a factor of your product that is selling itself to people and then causing people to sell it to other people?
I think it's a combination of the two. I think
Mm-hmm.
what's incredibly important as a small business owner is you are the face of your business.
Mm-hmm.
You are your brand.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going on Facebook every single day and saying, I am so overwhelmed with my small business, I can't sell a thing. Nobody likes it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, today was so hard. I couldn't handle it. No one's gonna want to buy my stuff.
Yeah.
They're gonna,
Yep.
it's bad vibes. But if I'm like, and I had mentioned this to you before, I really truly believe in attraction, not promotion.
Mm-hmm.
So I seldom have sales. I seldom discount my product. I really don't give it away too much. I do give it to people who I think like may have have a really unique audience and may want to share it with their audience.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just so important to say, like, share with your friends and be like, I'm so excited about this brand that I'm creating. It is so much fun and it affords me a really great flexibility in my life.
Yeah.
And Juniper is creating things with me in my kitchen. And here's a video of her doing that. Like, isn't it fun and cute?
Yeah.
And thank you guys so much for supporting me. Because of like the way that you're supporting me, I can stay at home with my girls.
Mm.
And people are really excited by that. And then they get the product and then they contact me, and I can't even tell you how many text messages and Facebook messages and Instagram messages I get every single day from people that I haven't connected with in years, saying either I cannot wait to try your product, or I tried your product and it is far exceeded my expectations and it's
Mm.
far better than anything I've ever purchased from any other natural company.
Mm.
And that's awesome. I'm like, that's great.
Yeah.
And I don't think I even say tell your friends. I'm like, can I share that? And they're like,
Yeah.
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 And they want to share it and they want to tell their friends. And it's a community and it's
Right.
so exciting. And I think of it as a ripple effect. So like my immediate people, like my friends
Mm-hmm.
are so excited about it. And then their friends are going to get excited about it. And then their friends are going to get excited about it. And then it's just going to spread through the entire world,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes. Aim for the world.
Oh, absolutely.
So speaking about giving your products to people that you think will, you know, I can't remember the word you used, but that will use it and then talk about it. Have you ever reached out to bloggers to do product reviews on any of your products? And if so, how did that work out?
I've actually pretty much, I've actually never reached out to a blogger. I've had
Okay.
primarily bloggers reach out to me, but again,
Oh, okay.
it's been people that I know that I'm already in relationship with. I think that
Okay.
relationships are so incredibly important in business.
Mm.
So I have a friend who writes a blog called The Well Essentials, and it's all about just real, beautiful, natural living and natural recipes and natural skincare. And she's like, "Can I feature you?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." So it's, again, attraction, not promotion.
Yeah.
So it's not like feature my stuff, feature my stuff, feature my stuff. It's
Yeah.
like, and even when I have reached out to like a few people on Instagram that do have blogs, but it's always been people that I've either known or that someone that I know has been like, "You should reach out to this person. I'm in
Mm.
a relationship with them."
Mm. Okay.
Because, like if I were to say, "Hey, you should reach out to like XYZ blog." I've never spoken to them, but they might like you. Or I
Right.
say, "Hey, you should reach out to my best friend. They have an amazing blog. I can vouch for you to them."
Mm.
Which one do you think is going to have a bigger
Oh, the
impact, right?
second. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's always been kind of people that I've been in relationship with.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so let's talk to that person who maybe their product isn't something that their their immediate circle of friends and family might use.
Right.
So let's say it's a guy who makes wallets out of leather
Mm.
and he does designs on them. Okay. So how does he go about networking with the right people to become evangelists for his products?
Have you listened to the Side Hustle podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great, right?
Yeah.
They're really awesome. So they recently had a podcast about, I forget how they phrased it, but basically parallel markets, right?
Hmm.
So say you're that guy that creates the wallets.
Hmm.
Like, what goes along with wallets? Like, I think of course, because I'm in the skincare business, I think of like rugged men's products,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So say you create like these really cool, like masculine leather hand stamped wallets, and they're really beautiful and really great quality.
Yeah.
But right, it's a very niche market, right? Like,
Hmm.
not everybody that you know is going to want to buy one.
Yeah.
But you find somebody on Etsy, or that you know through friends, or that you somehow manifest in your life, that makes men's beard oils and shaving supplies, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And you say, like, let's collaborate. Like, let's do, like, where have you been featured that you think that and you create a relationship with like those parallel markets, right?
Hmm.
You have the same customer base. What can you provide for each other? Like, I'm not stealing your customers. We're creating, we're collaborating, we're
Right.
like, how can we provide something unique for them? And just asking people, being like, "Hey, how do you do this?" I have one of my girlfriends that I know from a long time ago. She makes these really great like bath bombs and stuff, and
Hmm.
skincare products as well. It's called Witch Baby Soaps. And she's much further ahead in her business than I am. And I regularly reach out to her and I'm like, "How did you do this? Like, how did you get to that market? Like, how did you reach out to those people?" And I think it's important to see like where your parallel markets are,
Okay.
and just simply asking those businesses, like, "Can we collaborate on something?
Okay.
How do you reach your markets? Like, what's the best vendor fair that you've worked out? Can I be next to you at that vendor fair?"
Okay.
Does
All
it,
right. That makes sense. That does
yeah.
make sense. So at the end of the day, and this is something I think I've talked about with another seller on the podcast, was not to overlook actually talking to people. Selling
Yeah.
online, it's easy to get into a routine of not having actual conversations with live people, I call them.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I think there's such a huge opportunity for offline marketing because so many people have decided to go online to market their product or their businesses or their brands. And the opportunity offline, I think, is just opening up because now everyone is focusing on their computers, but then you can just turn to or walk into a brick and mortar store and have a conversation with someone. And nowadays that might get you farther because fewer people are thinking to do that. And so maybe not necessarily a physical a collaboration with a physical shop, but you're saying talk to people, look around and see who is doing something that complements what you're doing, and then have a conversation with them about teaming up.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I think people, it's really important to remember that though we are in an online marketplace, online isn't a bubble, right? Because people are still humans and human interaction is just so valuable. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, you and I were now friends, right? Like we know each other. We've never met.
Yeah.
And it's likely that we may never meet, but now we have a connection.
Yeah.
Right. So like
Yes.
maybe one day I want to start a podcast and I'm like, hey, how do you do it?
Absolutely. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's building those relationships and being in relationship and building connections. And they can be online, but it's really, I think it can be easy to just focus on like, how do I get my SEO right? How do I get my product photos right? How do I get my descriptions right? It's all very, very, very important things. But that relationship is what's really going to sell your product.
Right. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about pricing. You did something unique in that right out of the gates, you decided you were going to offer a high-end product. You weren't trying to market to just anyone. Your muse and your target market, you already knew how much income she has and discretionary income. And so you set your prices at a certain point because that's what you wanted to do. Let's talk about that. One, did you have any reservations about just jumping into the high end of the pool? And two, why?
Yeah. Yes, I absolutely had reservations.
Okay.
So do you ever listen or read any of like Tony Robbins books?
No, who's that?
Are you familiar? He's been around for decades now, but he's like a motivational speaker.
Oh, okay. I know of him, but no, I haven't read anything. He gives the talks that gets everyone all happy and motivated.
He's got this really powerful voice. So I've been listening to a lot of Tony Robbins recently, and in general, any kind of like inspirational speaker, they talk a lot about like self-limiting thoughts. And I think it's easy to get in this pattern of people don't want to pay for my product, or people don't want to pay a lot for my product.
Yeah.
Or I don't deserve a lot of money. And people, as sellers, we may not even be aware that we're thinking these thoughts, but like it kills me when I see someone's prices at like $8.32, because I don't know where that like random algorithm came from that's like floating around the Etsy world of like, take your supplies and multiply them by 2 and then add your hourly wage. Like, what does that mean? Like, so I did. I went into it really intentionally, and I did struggle with it for quite a bit. I think coming from the luxury apparel world made it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And seeing that people, even if they may not have that discretionary income on a daily basis, but when they want to treat themselves, people are very willing to pay more money for an exceptional product. Now, it really does have to be an exceptional product.
Yeah.
So if I were to pay $20 for, and I don't even think that it's like an exorbitant amount, because there are face creams out there that are $100, $150, $200. But if I were to go in a drugstore and pay $20 for a face cream versus $4 for a face cream, I would expect that $20 face cream to work significantly better.
Yes.
But I will pay more for it to work significantly better, for it to smell really fantastic, for it to be in like a really beautiful container that every time I use it, I feel amazing using it.
Yeah.
Versus like Joe Schmo's face cream that like, I don't know, it might work.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you on that. In that we were talking earlier and I mentioned to you that I was at Macy's a couple of days ago and overheard a conversation. But the reason I was there and in the perfume department was because perfumes are my weakness. I love
me too.
perfumes. And it had just been a long month and I was like, I need to treat myself. I need a new fragrance. And so in the mall I went to, there was a Marshall's not too far, like across the street from the Macy's. And I had planned to go to Macy's to get the perfume. But then I saw the Marshalls. I was like, well, Marshalls is cheaper. So let me see what they have in there. And then I went there and nothing really stood out to me. And I was like, you should have just stuck with the original plan. Just go to Macy's and get the scent that you want. And of course, the prices are, much higher at Macy's than you would get at Marshalls. But I just, for whatever reason, felt like, well, I'm getting a higher quality product. I don't know. Marshall says that they do come from high-end stores, but for whatever reason. But still, I was like, well, I want to buy it from Macy's. I know I'm going to pay more, but it's going to smell better. I'm going to feel good when I spray it or roll it on. And I specifically wanted the roller ball. I don't know why. It's a crazy. I wanted a roller ball perfume. And so I ended up going there and, picking it out. And yes, I paid more, but I felt comfortable with that because I wanted something that I wanted. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes complete sense. I mean, from a marketing perspective, it makes complete sense. And you could have theoretically purchased that same exact perfume at Marshall's, right?
Right. Yeah.
But they would have taken it, thrown it in a bag and said, good day.
Yes.
Went to Macy's, and I know everything at Marshall's is shrink wrapped, right?
Yes.
You could smell it. You could look at the bottles.
Yes.
Like what family it came from when you went to go purchase it. The gal wrapped it in tissue paper and put it in a beautiful bag for you and handed it. And then you came home and you unwrapped it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that to me and to many people is worth an extra 20-30%. Like that feeling. And as business owners, we sell a product, but we also sell a feeling and a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. You hit it on the head. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And the experience, and I think, as Etsy sellers, this is something to keep in mind too, was, do you want to be a Macy's or a Marshall's?
Yeah. And you can be a Marshall's.
You can. You absolutely can, because I do shop at Marshall's, but I shop there when I don't necessarily want the pampering that I would get at a Macy's or say a Nordstrom. Because that day I just felt like I wanted somebody to ask me what I was looking for. I wanted somebody to tell me what they had, whether or not I was going to get it. I wanted somebody to just be nice to me. But you don't really get that at Marshall's. You walk in, they say hello as you walk in the door. But there wasn't somebody at the counter who was pretending to be overly concerned about what I was looking for. But at Macy's, I got that.
Pretending. Like, we're coming from a place of retail, like, and being a business owner, like, I am concerned about like people's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Okay. I guess maybe
the
there.
perfume lady, she loves perfume and she wants to tell you all about it.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got it absolutely right. And that loops back to what we were talking about before about being that person for your customers, right?
Right.
Being that person that they can ask the questions. I mean, that's why people go to Etsy, because there's a face behind the store.
Yeah.
There's an actual human that you can contact and say, how did you make this? Like, what was your story behind it?
Yes.
Like, your children are helping you make it. That's incredible. Like, how fun.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to take that home with me.
Now, did you well, obviously we know they're there now, but before you started selling on Etsy, did you believe that Etsy had high-end buyers? Because I know a lot of people will go on, especially when it's handmade, the most offensive thing is to say to the person who made that item, well, I can make the same thing. Why are you charging me this? did you think that on Etsy, because you intended to sell a high-end product, that buyer was there who wasn't going to question why you thought what you were selling was what was,
Yeah,
had the value you put on it?
I do. I do. I mean, there's quite a few shops that are in the same like skincare, beauty categories that I'm in that have similar price points. And there are shops that have higher price points, and there are shops that have lower price points.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my market research. And like I said, I kind of went to I saw what that middle price ground was, and I went a little above that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's such a massive marketplace. I mean, you know better than me. I mean, how many millions of stores are on it?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a massive marketplace that there really is something for everybody.
Yeah.
And now so many people, I mean, Etsy is essentially a noun in everybody's vernacular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an eBay, right?
Right.
So people will search for everything. It's no longer just for like niche, handmade, like hand sewn thingamajiggers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about just continuing on the topic of how you treat your customers. I noticed that one of the things that you offer is what you refer to as upgraded cold shipping. What's that?
Yes. So it's something that I've been trying to do. I sell body butters,
Mm-hmm.
and then I sell a whipped face cream as well. So I had a growing pain in the summer when I started selling them, and I shipped a few, and quite a few people contacted me and say, "Hey, thanks for the package, but it arrived and it was liquid." And there's nothing worse than being a seller and hearing that. I mean, yeah, there's the idea that you're out of money, but it's the customer, right? Like,
Yeah.
imagine ordering something and again expecting it to arrive beautiful and amazing, and you as a seller like put that intention into it, and for it to be ruined on the way.
Yeah.
So I tried to think of like a workaround for it. And again, like I did my research of what other stores were doing, and I did see that some other stores had success with it. And I actually I sent out a few test runs. So I contacted a few people. I'm like, "Can I mail you a body butter?"
Who
Like,
would say no?
across the country. I'm like, in August, I was like, I think I was legitimately like 8.5 months pregnant at this point. I'm like,
Oh.
"Can I mail you a body butter with like cold packs in it and tell me how it turns out?"
Mm.
And I tried a few different methods, and I actually need to I have to change the costs on that to a calculated shipping.
Okay.
But what I'll generally do is I bought like a bunch of little freezer packs on Amazon, and I'll
Yeah.
package up the product, and I'll surround it in the freezer packs, and I'll package it up again and put it in, and then ship it express shipping, so that by the time it gets them, it's still chilly, but it's not frozen.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, good thinking. And then you just charge a little bit. It's like 20 cents extra, I believe. It's not.
no, it's the
Oh.
listing. It's because it's Etsy has that minimum 20-cent listing.
Oh, right. Okay, so it depends on the weight.
The charges and the shipping, correct? Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Do you use the Etsy shipping tool to do all your shipping, or do you use a third-party shipping management system?
I use the Etsy tool. It's so much easier.
Mm.
I was actually telling my husband because I live in the Northeast, and we just got like our first major snowstorm. And I'm like, I had a big box of packages, and I looked and I just put it out on my front stoop for my mailman. I'm like, I can't believe I used to go to the post office and handwrite everything. And I do think it was a nice touch to have a handwritten label, but yeah, it's so much easier to use the shipping tool. And I bought like a little scale on Amazon. I think it cost me $15 or so.
Those
And
are so valuable.
so valuable.
Yeah.
And I honestly poo-pooed it for a little while. I'm like, why would I buy it? I can go to the post office. But literally, I weigh everything, and I use the calculated shipping, and then it goes out on my stoop. And gosh, what's his name? Tom, my postman. He's out for surgery right now, but he's a great guy. He he picks it up. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Yep. Love that calculated shipping.
Yeah.
Another thing that you offer, and I wanted to make sure I asked about this, is the Good Karma sampler.
Yeah.
How does it work? When
It's
when you
free.
send a sampler? Okay, that's what I was wondering, because it says free. So what do you include, and have you been able to determine if by sending free samples the people who take advantage of that actually turn into buying customers?
They do. I say about 50% of them do.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it has a great return. It happened to me the thought came to me once when I was taking a shower. And
Where the best
again,
ideas come.
I know, right?
Yeah. And I'm not kidding. I'm serious.
Really do. It's and as a mother of two, it's the only quiet time I have.
Yes.
And so again, attraction, not promotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I I was like, how can I create like something really awesome for my guests, like for my customers? How can I provide like a gift for them?
Mm.
And I thought, like, why don't I just give them free samples? Like I do ask for people to pay for the shipping.
Mm.
So I do like a calculated shipping and
Mm-hmm.
it really doesn't cost me anything besides like the little pots that I buy for it. And because when I'm making like a body butter or deodorant, I don't I don't do the samples with any of the oils or the liquid products
Mm.
because they don't hold up really well in the little screw top containers.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But whenever I'm making a batch of a product, there's always like a little bit left over in the jar.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So I'm either going to wash it down the drain or I'm going to put it in these little pots, label them, and then when someone wants them, I ship them to them.
Okay.
Right? And
Yeah.
if they don't buy, like if they don't end up buying anything later on, first of all, sneaky thing, it increases the number of sales on my Etsy store. So,
Oh,
right? So
yeah.
so it increases like the perceived value of a customer.
Mm.
Um because like I have this, it increases the amount of sales that I had. When you go into a store and you see, oh, they've done 500 sales, they must be a good store. I mean, I am a good store, but it helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just good karma. Like it's just I want to give something to you. Like, I'm going to wash it down the drain anyway. It doesn't take
Right.
much time for me to package it up and send it to you. So and I like write them a little note. And I always give people samples whenever they buy stuff too,
Mm.
so they can like smell other stuff because I have a product, right? My product is based on smell and touch.
Yeah.
And those are two things that you can't unfortunately do. Like, you can't
Online.
experience them online.
Yes. Yeah.
So like, you're taking my word for it that it smells good, or you're taking my review's word for it that it smells good.
Yeah.
So like this is another way that I can provide that for people. But
Okay.
it really is it's pretty altruistic in terms of like, let me just give you something.
Yeah. Okay. And to me, that's akin to, well, when someone buys and then you throw in some samples in there, it's akin to, again, going to a department store and then they throw in some sampler fragrances, just,
Right. Like you go to Sephora, right? If you go to Marshall's,
yes.
they give
Oh,
you samples.
Sephora is good
Go to-
about that. Yes.
Yeah.
They give you
And you go to
so
Sephora
much.
and you're like dancing out the door because they gave you two little samples.
Yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
I know initially I thought the first time that happened, I thought the sales lady was just being nice to me because I'd spent so much time there asking so many questions. And then I found out they do it for everyone. I was like,
Oh,
oh.
I'm sure she was being nice to you anyway.
So Paula, let's talk about how you promote your Etsy shop. What do you do in the way of, so I know a good percentage of your customers know you and
Mhm.
know about what you're doing, but do you do anything outside of that, like say with social media or blogging, anything else to get the word out about your business and your product line?
Yeah, of course. I mean, so we did mention that a lot of my customers are people that I know, but unless I'm talking about my business or like educating them about my business, they're not going to buy, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
still need to somehow promote your business in a
Mm-hmm.
certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to focus on a few avenues rather than to spread yourself super thin.
Mm-hmm.
I I have a pretty strong Instagram presence, which it's like half pictures of my girls doing silly things and half pictures of my product.
Yeah.
And I do that intentionally,
Mm.
because again, like I think that it's important to have a face for your company.
Right.
So like my girls and myself are the face of my company. They are why I create what I create. And then here's some pictures of my product. Let me tell you about it. And so that's the intention of my Instagram. And then I actually started playing around with like Instagram Live yesterday. I did like a few videos of myself creating my product. And I had a few people pop on and they were like, tell me about the essential oils that you're using, or like, show me your methods. And I was like showing them how I was whipping body butter. It was really cool.
So wait, sorry. With that, do you just prop your phone up and then
Yeah.
you just start streaming live?
Yeah.
How
and
do
people were
people
like,
find you?
you get a ping on your phone and it says like Cln Drty, which is my handle, is now live, and people were popping on.
Oh,
Yeah. And it
wow.
comes up
Okay.
like on the stories, instead of like
Oh,
on the
okay.
scrolling Instagram feed, it
Yeah.
comes up on stories. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that was fun. And then most of my Instagram I'll usually feed directly to, I have a store Facebook. I have a brand Facebook page.
Mhm.
And then I'll usually like edit it to be a little more Facebook languagey rather than Instagram languagey.
Yeah.
And then I'll share it on my personal Facebook always.
Mm,
And then I'll generally like write a little message that's more like towards my friends on it.
okay.
Um, I I have mixed emotions about using Pinterest for business.
Why is
So
that?
so there's a bunch of like blogs and even podcasts, and there's been like quite a bunch of chat about like using group boards
Mhm.
and creating like these long pins and driving traffic to your Etsy through Pinterest.
Mhm.
And are you familiar with Tailwind?
I've heard of it, but I've never
Yeah.
used it myself.
So it's a Pinterest automator.
Mhm.
So for instance, there's a plugin for, like, I use Chrome. So there's a plugin for Chrome. So whenever like a listing of mine renews, I can click the Tailwind icon and it will take all of the images on that listing and it'll automatically populate all of the images, and it'll populate like a description for all of them. You can edit that description, and then you can say schedule every single one of these to be a pin, and then you can say which boards it goes to. So you can even like say put it to all of these group boards,
Mm.
and you can say like put it to like my natural skincare board, put it to like my brand board. And I did subscribe to Tailwind, and I think I had actually automated like 300 pins a day.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it was working, and I did see a lot of traffic coming in from Pinterest.
Mhm.
But I honestly don't, there's no way of knowing if those people were buying.
And that's the issue we always run into is
I know.
is that traffic converting? Because if it's not
Yeah,
converting, it's useless, really.
right. So are people on Pinterest looking to buy high-end handmade skincare products?
Mm.
I don't know.
Mm.
Are they looking to find recipes for do-it-yourself skincare products? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But are they looking to purchase? And is the Tailwind subscription worth that return on investment for me? So I struggled with that. It
Mhm.
may work for some people. I decided to cancel it. But the
Okay.
good thing about Pinterest is your pins live forever. So I do still see like a significant amount of Pinterest traffic coming in because people are repinning the pins that I pinned through
Yeah.
Tailwind for those first few months that I had it. So it may be worth it to like have it for like 2 months and just get a bunch of pins out there, and maybe they'll like naturally get out there. But
Mm.
so I do have mixed emotions about Pinterest. I use Instagram, I use Facebook.
Mm. How
Um,
about Twitter? Anything?
no, I can't. I I feel like I just can't get down with it.
Yeah.
I feel like Twitter is for news, right?
Yeah. Well,
Like
I
it's
mean, not necessarily, but yes, there's news on there. I think it
yeah,
can be for anything. But
yeah,
yes, I know people have a leaning one way or another.
I've heard a lot of handmade people being like, I just can't get down with it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sure there's like a really powerful way to use it, but I
Yeah.
just don't have the time. Like I would rather um focus my energy on having like real quality Instagram posts and having
Yes.
real quality interaction. And that's so important. You hear so many people saying, I post on Instagram all the time and I'm not getting any traffic. It's about interacting with like other Etsy sellers, using those hashtags to find other Etsy
Yeah.
sellers, finding like other brands that are doing similar things to you, and not just posting like, hey, check out my page, but actually being in conversation with them.
Yes. And I think
Yeah.
the problem with Twitter now is that the feed is so, especially if you're following a lot of people, the the lifespan of messages that you see that come into your feed is so short and so quick. It doesn't, it's harder to stay engaged unless you happen to see something at the right time, and then
Mm,
you can engage with that person if they're there posting live, which is one thing I find like on a difference between Twitter and Instagram. On Instagram, yes, there are now scheduling tools where you can schedule your Instagram posts. But I feel like more often than not, especially with the more personal brands, the people are actually either posting live or
yeah.
they get the notifications and and are able to engage when there is some engagement on their post, as opposed to something like Twitter, which I think, and this is just my impression, I think is almost 100% all automated. It
Mm,
doesn't feel to me like people are actually manually tweeting themselves. I feel like everything is just all automated, so that takes some of the the desire to interact and engage out for me. That is um
yeah.
I almost feel like the only person who live tweets is Donald Trump, because they always say,
Oh
oh,
my
he
God, I
said
didn't want
this.
to bring him up.
No, 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 we're not going to talk about him, but I just say that to say I think he's like the only one who live tweets. I think everybody else schedules their tweets. And I say that because every time he says something, it's in the news. You
But
can't
it's at
help
like
but.
2:30 in the morning. Like, does the man sleep?
I know, I know.
I'm not even
I'm
on
like,
Twitter and I know about this.
yes, exactly. But you don't really hear, much of anybody else live tweeting. And I think that's because most people automate their tweets. But we
Yeah. See, and
digress.
I don't think that's really powerful for engagement, right?
No, I don't think it is, unless you're going to be watching to see if anyone is engaging with what you're putting out there, and then, being ready to respond.
Yeah. I mean, like the only word that comes to mind then is like Twitter war. Like I just don't have like a real positive. I'm like, I don't even know what a Twitter war is, but I've heard of that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't actually, have I heard? Yeah, I've heard the phrase before,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Anyway, no,
Anyway.
I think it's important to do something and do it well
Mhm.
rather than do 10 things and do them mediocre.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I I respect people who can be on multiple social media platforms and do them well. But
Yeah.
I
Oh my
think,
gosh, right?
especially when you're right, but especially when you're a one woman or one man business, it's hard unless you start to outsource. And most people from the get go can't afford to outsource like their
No, and I
social
think
media.
and again, I think it's so important to be you, right? Like to be that
Yeah.
face of your brand. So like if you're
Mhm.
outsourcing your brand, then it takes away the value, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yeah.
So the other thing I was going to ask about is Etsy teams. How involved are you, and have you seen much benefit from any?
I'm really not involved in Etsy teams at all.
Okay.
I have a lot more interaction with, there's a really great group on Facebook
Mhm.
called Thriving on Etsy and Beyond. Have you heard of it?
No, who runs
No.
that?
Um, I don't know exactly the admins' names,
Okay.
but it's just a really great community. I think there's a few thousand people on it, and there's a lot of
Okay.
really good interaction on it.
Okay.
And I can generally go there and like ask a question and have a really quick response. I just haven't had a lot. I'm just on Facebook all day anyway, like talking
Mhm.
with like either my friends or my customers, that it's easy to access it that way. But
Okay.
I know there's like an Etsy Artists of Boston team, and I like attended one meeting and they were really lovely. But like with two kids at home, I can't like
It's
do evening
hard.
meetings. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough. So again, like that group works really well for me. And so I stick with that primarily. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll find that Facebook group and then link to it in the show
Yeah,
notes for
they're
this
wonderful.
episode. So anyone who's interested in checking them out, it's called
Yeah.
Thriving on Etsy and Beyond. What's
Yeah,
the
we call each
beyond? Other platforms?
other platforms. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to my thrivers.
Good. One of the things that you mentioned is being able to track your business finances. And one thing that you said was with the other Etsy shops that you ran, you weren't really doing a good job of tracking the financials for those shops. But now you are. What system are you using? Are you using like a web-based solution like what's that? Like GoDaddy has something, or do you use a good old Excel spreadsheet?
I generally just use a good old Excel spreadsheet where I put in profits and losses, like a checkbook register, essentially.
Okay.
Like if I have to buy supplies, it'll go in the negative column. If I make a sale, it goes in the positive column.
Okay.
But then I do, Etsy has recently integrated with QuickBooks for small business.
Yeah.
And I did that the other week. And I think I went into like a 5-hour black hole. And it's wonderful. It's really, really great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's really good. So if you are like making enough that you're going to have to do some taxes with it.
Yes.
It's really good to use that. It's a good program, and it's really streamlined, and you can like attach all your bank accounts to it and everything,
and your credit cards and
yeah. It's really good.
And I just want to say, even if you feel like you're not making enough, that you think you need that, it's good to plan for the future. If your goal is to grow your Etsy shop and you want it to become something more than what it is today, and you plan to, your intention is for it to earn more income with each passing month or year, then it's worth it to actually start getting your accounting in order now while it's still simple and while it's still not complicated. Then as you grow, you already have a solution in place. And you don't have to backtrack and try to, fix things that you weren't doing correctly.
Yeah. And there's so many tax write-offs, guys.
Oh, yes.
That's as far as I'll go in that. But contact your personal accountant, but there are a lot of tax write-offs.
Yes. Accounting disclaimer. We are not financial advisors or accountants. No. Contact your own person. But yes. When, what would you say is one of the hardest lessons you learned from selling on Etsy, and how can you save someone who's listening right now from making the same maybe not making the same mistake, but maybe save them, diminish that learning curve for them?
I mean, going back to finances, I think it's important to see like what's going in and out. Right? Because like when I was making jewelry, I would go to the jewelry to, the store and just buy a bunch of stuff and maybe buy like $100 worth of stuff. And then I would sell $80 worth of jewelry, and I'd be like, yay, I made money.
Yes.
I'm not making any, and that's okay. Like if that's how you want to do it, like if your intention is not to make money and it's to make beautiful things and sell it to people, that's great. But I was trying to make money.
Yes.
And I think it's really important to be intentional about brand.
Okay.
And to like know who you're selling to and to know why you're selling and what your intention is.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you tell to that seller who is now floundering with, coming up with just that right product line and getting their business in order, not just their Etsy shop, but their whole business? As someone who has run multiple Etsy shops in the past and finally hit your stride, what would you tell that person who is floundering right now?
To ask for help. There's so many resources out there. And as people who work primarily from home or are doing this from home, either like in their office or, in their kitchen, it's easy to feel really isolated and like you don't have any resources to turn to. But I can guarantee you that there's somebody in your life, or that you either know, or like somebody that you've contacted online, or even someone that you can reach out to that you don't necessarily know, who either has a small business, has started their own business, is an accountant, is familiar with like product sourcing, has an Etsy shop. I found it really intimidating when I was starting out. I had a few friends that had, thriving Etsy shops, and I would like look at them and I would get jealous, and I'd say, oh my gosh, look how good they're doing. I wonder how they're doing that. And it took me a while to simply say like, I can ask them how they're doing that. And now I have, I have a lot of friends that are starting out
Yeah.
Etsy shop. I have so many friends that are starting out small businesses, and they're reaching out to me now and asking me questions,
Yeah.
and it feels so good. Like you're not putting a burden on somebody by asking them for help, on asking how they did it.
Yeah.
If I have like a secret, like a trade secret that I don't want to give you, I'm just not going to tell you, right? Like I'm not going to give you my recipes on how I make my products,
Yeah.
but I am going to tell you like we're discussing now, right?
Yes.
Like this is an amazing resource for people.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to tell you like how I do my marketing, like how I pick my audience, how I price my products, because it's not a secret.
Mhm. Yeah,
So yeah,
it's funny
ask
that
me.
you say you would look at like you had friends who were doing well. I was on the other end of the spectrum. Like I would look at other Etsy sellers who are doing well and be like, oh my goodness, I wish I could just talk to that person. It never occurred to me to just send that person a conversation and ask, can you tell me
Absolutely.
how, or, how to do this, or what you did when you encountered this, but from talking to other Etsy sellers, I found that more often than not, you're going to get a positive response. And
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
likely that person will be willing to help you.
And if they give you a negative response, so what?
Yeah, move
Like
on.
move
Yes.
on.
Yes. Now, one of the other things that I want to mention is you have been able to secure a couple of wholesale accounts. Did you do
Yes.
that through Etsy Wholesale, or did they find you some other way? And one of them is a huge name. I don't know if we can say it on air, but if we can,
You can, yeah.
yeah. So you have a wholesale account with Nested Bean, which if anyone
Yeah.
knows them, they make the baby swaddle stuff.
So, um, n- all of my wholesale accounts are through people that I know.
Wow.
I have such a phenomenal group of friends of like people. Thank God for Facebook, right? So, I have wholesale accounts with like a yoga studio and that my friend owns.
Mhm.
And I have a wholesale account with a salon that my friend owns. And I'm in conversation with a few other ones, but Nested Bean, they found me, and it's not necessarily like a true wholesale account. They did like a gift set, and they were looking for handmade makers to contribute to their gift sets.
Okay.
So I researched the day that they found me, and it was through SEO. Shout out to Marmalade. I know you love Marmalade too. They're
Yeah.
honestly, like if anybody's listening to this and you want one tool to invest in to like pay for a subscription, it's Marmalade. It really makes a huge difference
Mhm.
in how people find your store,
Mhm.
and it pays off for me every single month.
Oh,
But
good.
I think they found me through SEO. I think they found I have like a really, oh, it smells so good, like a lavender eucalyptus body butter, and they were looking for like a calming body butter,
Oh,
and I think
yeah.
I it was in my description and in my tags, and they
Oh.
liked what I had. And honestly, they contacted me, and they were like, "Hi, my name is, Joe. I'd like to talk to you about your products." I'm like, "Oh my God, this is like spam." I'm like,
And this was
"Hey,
through
Joe."
the Etsy conversation
It
system.
was, yeah.
Uh-huh,
And
uh-huh.
so I don't use Etsy wholesale. I haven't gotten around to it yet. And I was like, "Okay, Joe, what do you want?" And I was like, what's the catch?
Yeah.
And it was funny because I actually use their products on my daughter. So I kind of like geeked out on them. Like, yeah, 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 yeah. I use this swaddle and this swaddle. So they were really great to
That's
work with. So
funny.
hopefully I'll work with them in the future.
Okay, good. Well, that's good to know. And one thing I've mentioned on the podcast before, and I like to say it just because I think there is a misconception out there that, you know, the goal of using Etsy is to get on Etsy, make your brand, and then get off. And one
Mm.
of the things I just try to remind people of is, yeah, it's great to have your own home on the web, your own e-commerce site and all whatnot. But the chances that a company like, say, Nested Bean would be looking up your brand without having been exposed to it anywhere else is a
Oh
lot
yeah.
lower than them going to a platform like, say, Etsy and browsing around for what they're looking for. And if your items are, listed properly, tagged properly, you're using the right terms to be found in searches, both on and off Etsy, in Google as well, because you can be found in Google too.
Yeah.
The chances of something like what happened with Paula and Nested Bean happening are higher if you're still on Etsy. And Etsy doesn't pay me to say that. I get nothing from them. That's just the truth. It's easier to get the exposure that you really want if you put yourself where people are already looking.
I 100% agree. I mean, oh gosh, I think it was again, the Side Hustle podcast, and they were talking about, finding your target market.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first of all, Etsy, you're absolutely right. The fees that they take, they're compared to like what other selling platforms take, they're really not much at all.
Mm-hmm.
And for the exposure that you can get. So like the Side Hustle podcast, they were talking about like finding your market, right? So like if you were selling like sunglasses and you were like just down the street, sunglasses, like how many people are going to buy your sunglasses? But if you're like at a shack on the beach on a sunny day, they definitely weren't using this example, but like if you're at a shack on the beach on a sunny day, you're going to sell a lot of sunglasses.
Yes.
So like Etsy people are already looking for handmade products by a person that they can identify and like create that relationship with that creator.
Right. And then after they found you, then they're yours. You can build on that relationship, and Etsy doesn't have to be involved.
Absolutely. I have no intention like at this trajectory of, unless like I sell the company and make millions, which would be wonderful.
Which could happen.
Which, okay, hold on. So I'm big on manifesting, which will happen.
There you go.
So, but I have no intention of, moving to like a standalone website. It's for the amount that I pay Etsy and for the tools it gives me, like the QuickBooks and the shipping and everything, it's worth it to me. It absolutely is.
Yeah, that's good. Is there, so I think we know what you love about selling on Etsy. Is there any feature that doesn't currently exist on the platform that you might like to see them offer in the future?
I know a lot of people have mentioned like the sales, and I haven't used, what's that called? Sales on Etsy. There's like that other program that people use.
To do what?
To create sales on their listings. There's like a third party.
Oh, yes, there is. And the name escapes me, but I know what you mean. What you're talking about.
That, but I know it's subscription based, so I don't see it, like I haven't found a value in it at this point. But I wish there was like some way to create like individual sales. And then what was I thinking? It's like in your variations. Oh, I wish there was shipping. You could do calculated shipping for variations, because my variations are sizes.
Oh.
So like
container sizes.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. I know that's like really specific, but it would save my guests a little bit of money.
Yeah. So right now, are you having to create separate listings for different sizes, different quantities?
No, my sizes aren't like massively different. So I charge for like the heavier of the sizes, and then if it is a significant difference, I'll refund the shipping.
Yeah.
And then I found I've had to refund shipping a few times. Like I've had a few people who have purchased like 20 items and it charges them like $80 in shipping.
Yeah.
And I promise you it's not going to cost that.
Yes.
Just like the weird way it calculates shipping. So that's a little bit buggy, but it's just a matter of refunding the shipping. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I found that too when people buy multiple items and then the shipping is outrageous. And I think, oh my goodness, I'm so surprised that this person didn't, message me and say, can you please adjust the shipping? Because I would have walked away if I saw that shipping. But I always will refund on the shipping, because anybody knows it's not going to cost that much.
No,
but yes, so yeah, I guess that could be better.
Yeah, that's all that like really comes to mind. Those little variations. And it was like, what else was I thinking with variations? I wish their variations aren't very
Flexible?
Yes,
Yeah.
flexible. You can't do like a variation on a variation.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, because yes, I've tried and I'm like, oh no, I can't do that.
Yeah, but that's about it. And you know what? I have found that the strength of that is you can like duplicate a listing and then create variations on that listing and
Yes.
there like increase your SEO and like link back within your product to the other listing and
Yes.
that's yeah.
Okay.
So there are ways around it.
What's something that you're doing now that you feel is working really well for you?
Being really positive about the brand.
That you are.
But like going back to it. So again, like I think it is about like manifesting that positivity and just how lucky are we to like live in a world where we can create something and sell it to other people, right?
Yeah.
Like how from the comfort of my own home, I get everything, all my supplies come to my door. I wouldn't even have to leave my house if I don't want to.
Yeah.
But and like create these amazing things and have people tell me how much they love them and then be in relationship with those people. Like how awesome is that? And I think like my biggest turnoff then is when I see like sellers or business owners saying like, oh, this is so, I can't believe how many orders I got today. How am I ever going to do this? Like, no, like you're going to do it and it's going to be fine. And like, just be happy that people are buying your stuff. Like, I think what works really for me is like, I say thank you to every single person that buys from me. I write every single person a little letter when they purchase it.
Yeah, I do
like,
too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that gratitude and people return based on that gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, we talked about some resources and tools that you're using. You mentioned Marmalade and Tailwind and the Facebook group Thriving on Etsy and Beyond. Are there any other resources or tools that you find particularly useful that you haven't shared yet?
I think those are my top 3. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I will link to all those again. I'll also link to your friend's blog, The Well Essentials, as well, for anyone who wants to check that out too. Okay.
Yeah.
Paula, what's the best way people can get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
Through Etsy Conversations.
Okay.
They can reach out to me through the Facebook, through my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Cln Drty. Oh, we didn't discuss the way that we spell it.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So
now you spell it for us and explain it.
Yeah. So it's CLN &DRTY. So I took out all of the vowels.
Yeah. What do you have against vowels?
Nothing at all. I think they're wonderful letters. So it's brand. It was just all based on brand. I want it to be modern and young and really kind of like hip and cool. And there's a meditation studio, and I totally stole it from him. There's a meditation studio in Manhattan called Mindful. And I've never been there, but I follow them on Instagram and I like peek at their website, and it's just the most beautiful studio ever. And it's MNDFL. So and I'm like, how cool. Like, I just thought it was like really like sharp and young and cool and hip.
Yeah.
So we did Clean and Dirty, and I just thought like, it's skincare products, right? So they're supposed to make you clean, but I think there's something I wanted to be edgy at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's where the dirty comes in.
Okay.
Like, yeah. Yeah.
So again, it's CLN &DRTY.
Yeah. And then on Etsy, it's CLN and then it's ANDDRTY because they don't have an ampersand. Yeah.
Right. And I will link to Paula's Etsy shop too. So you can go there from the website. I'll tell you, when I first saw the name of your Etsy shop, my first thought was, oh, is it like a print type shop? And are you making like artwork that's, with quotes or sayings where some are clean and some are dirty? And I was like, oh, I don't know.
No, that's just my real life.
So anyway, yeah, then when I saw what you make, I was like, oh, I get it, clean and dirty. Nice.
It's I think of it like fighting dirty, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a little edgy, it's a little fun, it's a little gritty. Like it works at the same time.
Yeah, it does work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good brand.
Thank you.
So I will have Paula's contact information, and everything we talked about on this podcast will be on the show notes. Again, her Etsy shop is Clean and Dirty. Please go check her out and let her know if you have any questions. I think you can tell that she's willing and open to share information and to help others. So
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh,
that's
good.
The one thing I wanted to add was
Please go ahead.
I'm totally willing to help people. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be like me and be afraid to ask people questions, especially when you hear them say that they're willing to help. So thank you so much, Paula, for being so open, being willing to help, and for coming and sharing.
Thank you for having me. I mean, I can't even express how grateful I am for all your help.
You're welcome. And thank you for being flexible. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.